video on to see if we can turn this cheap supermarket long grain rice, is it long grain? Yes, long grain rice into risotto without having to use fancy risotto rice, which is completely breaking all the rules, and everyone will think it's terrible that I'm attempting to use a different type of rice than risotto rice. But it's an experiment, so we're going to see. And it's also going to be a really cheap way of making risotto, and we're going to use some other cheap ingredients, and we're going to see what we can do and see how it turns out. So I've got a couple of leeks that need using up, so it's going to be a leek risotto. That's pretty straightforward, and I'm going to have in the past used this supermarket hard cheese. It's pecorino Parmesan-ish cheese. I don't know why it's just called hard cheese and it's not got a name to it. There's obviously a reason, but it'll be some hard cheese made probably not in Italy, so therefore it can't be called anything like pecorino or Parmesan. So we're going to use, I'm going to cost it so to use that, because I have used this before and it's all right at its job. It's all right for cooking. Eating wise, it's not that good, but certainly cooking wise, that's fine. I'm not going to break into it because I've already got some Italian hard pecorino open, so I'm going to use that. But it's much of a muchness if you're kind of cooking. So I'm going to cost it as if I were using that. I can't see the point in opening that if I've already got that open already, because the chances of me using that up anytime soon, if once I've opened it, will be kind of quite slim. So I'm going to cost it for that, but I'm actually going to use that. So cheap long grain rice, we've got 200 grams. It's about 200 grams of rice per needs about a litre of stock, which is going to be cheap chicken stock. So we're going to use cheap chicken stock cubes, and normally it's a stock cube for about half a litre, but I reckon we might need 3 or possibly 4, because I'm not going to use any butter or any fat. So we're going to use the richness of the stock cubes and the cheese as the kind of where we get a richness and the kind of flavour from. We'll add a little bit of salt as well, but that's what we're going to be using for the bulk of the flavour. Works quite well, and the rice is quite a sticky rice, so it should turn into a risotto kind of quite easy. Well, risotto-ish kind of quite easily. And if it works making risotto, then I'm certainly going to have a go at making rice pudding with it, which I think should work as well. However, I had problems with this type of rice in the past when I've been playing around, and sometimes it doesn't want to cook particularly, so it goes soft or a little bit. It wants to stay a little bit too hard, a little bit harder than al dente. So we're going to have it's just a play around, and we'll kind of see. So I did work out how much it was all going to cost, but I've forgotten. But anyway, so leeks pretty straightforward. We just need to worry. We'll just move all this stuff away. We just need to worry about. I haven't got a knife ready. Have I got no knife? I will pause. I need to pause because I've got no knife. Right, I am back and I am prepared. So leeks pretty straightforward. Lots of people want to throw that green bit away. I think there's loads of flavour in there, so we're going to use that. So we'll just trim off the very ends, because we don't want the end pieces. We'll get rid of that. That'll go to the compost. And we have to worry about, the only thing we have to worry about in leeks is the dirt that gets in there, in between those bits as it grows. So we're going to slice, leaving the root on, slice straight down the middle with the knife. You might be able to see some dirt, but we're going to give it a wash a couple times, so you can see there's some dirt in there. So that's not a problem, and we're going to leave the leeks kind of quite long. So I'll prep the leeks, but I'll show you how I'm going to prep them, and then we're going to wash them a couple of times in like warm water, not warm soapy water, just warm water. So we want that. We want that kind of shape. That's how we're going to cook leeks. I'm going to wash them, and then I'm going to cook the leaves in just a little bit of, I'm going to steam them just in a little bit of water, because we're not using, I haven't got any fat to use, because it just kind of adds to the cost of things, and I just wanted to have a play around and use, obviously as it's explained before about the stock cubes are going to be like the source of fat and richness. So we're just going to steam the leeks in a little bit of water in a pan to cook them that way once we've washed them. And then I'm slightly concerned about the rice because of the way it cooks. The leeks might be completely overcooked by the time the rice is ready. So we're going to start the risotto off, and then when the risotto is getting a little bit close to being ready, then we'll add the leeks back into it. We'll do it that way. So I'll chop the leeks, wash them, and then we're back once I have cooked them, and then we'll be on the start of the making the risotto. The leeks are now chopped and washed and cooked, and as you can see they have shrunk quite a lot. I steam the leeks just in a little bit of water in the pan. What happens is lots of water wants to come out of the leeks, so I have given the leeks a squeeze to get rid of that excess water from the leeks, so they're nice and dry now. However, I didn't waste that water. That's what I made. That's what I added to the stock. So I added the liquid from drained the leeks. The liquid went into a measuring jug, and then I topped that up so it's a litre worth of stock. And I put 2 stock cubes in there. And then what I thought I'd do is, because these stock cubes are mostly fat, and you're supposed to coat the rice you fry off the rice in the butter and it coats the rice. Because these stock cubes are mostly fat, if I'm honest, let's see if we can make a little bit of emulsion with some of the stock and that stock cube in there, and then we might be able to coat the rice in the same way. So a little bit of stock in there to start off with. Lid back on, give it some heat, and I've got a whisk somewhere, so we'll break that stock cube down, and then hopefully that might just coat the rice in the same way as the butter does, but I'll have to be quick because we don't want it to get rid of that. Use a spoon the proper way, so we'll use that as hopefully this will coat the rice in the same way that the butter does. I can see that working. So we'll turn the heat up a little bit. Is that the right one? Yes, that's the right one. Still don't know which knob turns the gas on, and I've had the cooker nearly 20 years. So we'll start the cooking process off like that. And then that should, and then we'll start adding the stock one ladleful at a time. But the stock's boiling, so it should be a relatively quick process. If I get a bit bored and I think it's a bit tedious, then we'll switch the video and I'll come back when it's a little bit more interesting. Right, so I did work out the costings, and for all the ingredients it came to £1.90. So I reckon there's going to be 4 portions of risotto, so that's probably going to be, that will work out at 48p portion, which is, for a lunch, that's pretty cheap. So that's just starting to stick, so we can have some stock now. It's just an experiment. I kind of think in future what I could do is, you can buy cheap cooking bacon in the supermarkets, so potentially in the future, and cheap peas and things like that, so potentially could make a cheap pea and bacon, or a pea and leek, or a leek and bacon risotto in the future, if this works out, which I kind of think would be kind of nice and interesting. Obviously using the bacon will make it a little bit more expensive, and we'll use onion instead of if we're just using peas and bacon, or we'll use onion instead of leeks. So onions are cheaper than leeks, so that'll keep kind of the price down. And also potentially I'll have a play around with if we can make a do this slowly. See if we can make just like an onion risotto with, and see how that turns out. So we normally put onions just in risotto. So I think potentially we could add more onions and stock cubes, and that might make kind of an interesting and extremely cheap risotto. So we'll kind of see how it goes. So I don't think we need to watch the whole risotto making process, because it can be a little bit slow and tedious. So we'll come back when I've almost added all the stock. Yeah, I was a little bit worried there might be too much leeks, but I don't think there will be. I think it'll be an interesting risotto, but we'll see how we go. Right, so we're just about to put the there's only me. We're just about to put the last spoonful, ladleful of stock into the rice. As you can see, that's not, considering it's not proper risotto rice, that's not doing too bad. That's not doing too bad. It's got quite a lot of starch to it, so it's nice and creamy. And once we add the cheese, it'll be all right. So last ladleful of stock is going to go in. Get that out of the way. And off the gas. That's the right one. So we're going to need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the leek in now, because it's going to need that liquid. By the time the liquid's been absorbed and evaporated, then hopefully the leek will be ready. The rice has got a little bit of bite to it. Yeah, a little bit of bite to it, which is okay, which is alright for risotto. So, leek's going to go in. There's quite a lot of leeks. I don't think there's enough rice there for 4. I don't think this is going to be enough for 4 people. We'll see how we go. It might need a little bit more rice, but I'll adjust the recipe in the description, kind of to kind of compensate. So maybe 2 good portions. So it probably needs double the amount of rice. If I'm honest, that's all right. That's looking all right. Is that? So we will mix all that together. Yeah, it's 2 good portions. Is that? Yeah, 2 good portions. Looking good. Considering it's cheaper rice. So we will taste. Well, taste some of the leek, because I think it might need. I'm going to put some pepper in. I'm going to turn the heat off. So a little bit of pepper in. And then, am I going to add another stock cube, or am I going to add? No, I'm not going to add another stock cube. We will add the cheese, and then we will we'll taste again, and then we'll add a little bit of salt. I don't want to add another stock cube, because it might become a little bit too salty then. So, although I will work out the recipe, and I'll put it in the description. So, 50 grams of cheese. Heat's off, so that's fine. So it's not going to curdle the cheese. If you were going to, you could add a bit of extra butter now if you wanted to make it really rich and creamy. But I think 50 grams of cheese is going to be enough. We'll see how we go. I think that's alright actually. Cheap rice. Who'd have guessed it, eh? Who would have guessed it? Obviously it's not proper risotto, but it's the price of risotto rice is really expensive compared to this cheap rice. So that's alright. So quick taste. No, that's alright with that. It doesn't need any more. It doesn't need any more salt. That's 2 good portions. So a lot more expensive than I originally thought, but I think we could. There's enough leek in there that we could eke it out with maybe. We could turn it into 3 portions by putting another 100 grams of rice in. We could eke that out to 3 portions instead of the 4 that I originally thought. Oh, well, that's, I mean, yeah. So that'd be like 3 nice portions, and then that'd be enough leek in there. And we'd probably need to add a little bit of cheese. So I'll have a faff around with the actual recipe and the costings. But there we go. I think that's successful. That's certainly going to be nice. It's certainly going to be a nice dinner, is that, to eat. So there we go. The first risotto made with cheap supermarket rice, and we'll see how it goes in the future.